All right, guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are coming in from. I am so excited to have the CEO of Visit Tampa Bay. This is an awesome guest, and you have an awesome name, by the way, just like rolls off the tongue. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Santiago Corrada? Is that
Corrada.
Corrada? Okay.
But you are more close than anybody else.
Yeah,
I've been called Corraded, Karate,
Karate's a good one.
Corrado. So you are closer than anybody else.
I saw you have quite a bit of content out there. Obviously, we're going to jump into it in just a second, but obviously wanted to shout you out. The CEO of Visit Tampa Bay, as I said, been serving since 2013, 25 years of public service. You were the prior chief of staff, I think before that role for Tampa. Numerous awards and accolades. You're on numerous boards. I don't know. I don't even have obviously, I'm not even asking for a peek at your schedule, but I don't know when you sleep. So absolutely amazing resume. Excited to have you representing Tampa Bay and excited to have you on.
Well, thank you for all of that. I'm so excited to be on the podcast. And we were chatting before, it's not an accident, and nothing we do in the tourism business can be an accident. We're very strategic. We're very calculating, we're aggressive, we're competitive, we're creative. In our industry, there's no monopoly. No one owns the tourism industry. You have to compete to make sure that your destination is elevated. And that's what we do every single day, is to make sure that we are creating huge economic impact for our destination. And we can talk about what that visitor economy really does, because there are so many tentacles to the economic impact of visitors, conventions, events to our home. It creates jobs, no income tax, huge sales tax, education tax. The properties that are part of that tourism infrastructure pay property taxes. That means great quality of life for all of us. So lots of moving parts in our industry, and it's very competitive.
I could imagine, to say the least. I mean, obviously, maybe, and not to take anything away from you and your team, maybe Florida makes it a little bit easier, because Florida is a...
No, you know what? But Florida was one of the original tourism destinations for the country. So the state of Florida, with its climate, its no income tax, obviously theme parks, natural beauty, some history. Yes, Florida is a great state to represent, and we all have a great working relationship. We serve on a number of boards at the state level. We get together, we talk strategy, but at the end of the day, sometimes you compete head to head for a convention or a big event with some of your friends, and it's all very friendly. It really is.
And I just jumping right into it. Obviously, we're going to learn more about you and hope to educate the the viewers. I'm putting on my tourism hat.
Thank you.
What makes Tampa Bay such a unique place to live, and why should people visit here?
Before we had all of the stuff we have today, right? And I've been here 23 years. I served almost 10 years in City Hall. Mentioned chief of staff, held a number of positions at City Hall before I took on this great opportunity 13 years ago. And before all the new stuff we have to talk about, we always talked about the people. The people in Tampa are very special. Hillsborough County, this region, it's got its own personality, right? 100%. I came off of the East Coast because I lived in New Jersey, moved to Miami, worked in Miami for 20 some odd years, moved over to Tampa, and I thought,
So not to cut you off, my parents got married in Cranford, grew up in New Jersey, New York.
No way.
Moved to Miami in 81 after they got married to help out my grandparents. And then I was born in 91 in Hollywood, Florida.
Way.
So
yeah,
and then we made our way up there. So maybe that's just the path of greatness.
It's a small world. It's a small world. And when I first moved to Tampa, like I said, 23 years ago, I didn't think it would be that different from a Miami. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that really, really hit me was the people were very different.
Very much
Midwest, very professional, very courteous, polite, helpful, encompassing, welcoming. I didn't know how people would react to me coming into a role at City Hall, coming from Miami to Tampa. And I have to tell you,
Mr. Big Pants.
Yeah, whatever they thought. Miami Vice, I don't know what they thought. But they didn't treat me that way. I was welcomed. I was allowed to contribute. I was asked for my opinion. And I think that's why I have so much affection for this destination, and it's genuine, because I felt that welcome. And so at first we used to say the people are our secret weapon. When you come to Tampa, you're going to be treated like gold by our people. And yes, we had Busch Gardens, and yes, we had a convention center, and shortly thereafter, we had an aquarium, and we had a zoo. We've had a zoo and a performing arts center, a beautiful Tampa theater, children's museum. We added all these wonderful things that create content for us, create something to talk about. But then hotels, when you see the proliferation of high-end hotels like the JW Marriott, the Edition, the Pendry under construction. So now, we have all of the attributes of a major city. Everything, sports, culture, history, the arts, et cetera, but we don't have the hassles of some of those big cities.
I agree with that.
So, and when you come to Tampa, Tampa was waiting for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, wow, I was welcomed. I know that they appreciate me being here, whether it's a meeting or a convention or a big event like we just had over the last few days with BTS. You've seen the turnout for that. Every time we host an event, the people of Tampa, Hillsborough County show up. And the visitors, the guests feel that affection. So we have a lot of great things going for us. You and I have been in other places, so we can compare. Sometimes if you're only in one place, you take it for granted. You feel an entitlement, and we should be very proud of the place we live in.
I think we absolutely should. I love Tampa. I mean, we were talking about it. This is one of the primary reasons, if not the primary reason I started the podcast, was to, one, meet incredible people in Tampa Bay, and to be able to highlight the city. I want to unpack a little bit too. We were talking about before the podcast. I'm a system and processes guy. I love SOPs. I love checklists. I love templates. I mean, that's how I schedule.
Speaking our language.
That's how you have to roll if you want to get anything done. As I was diving in and doing my research about you and what Tampa Bay, Visit Tampa Bay does, I was like geeking out on the logistics that takes to bring in an event to Tampa. So a lot of people, like, for example, will throw out a major concert, and a Taylor Swift or BTS or something like that. A major concert comes into town, just something small, 1 or 2 nights, et cetera, not even something continuous like a Lightning game or et cetera, or the Bucks. There's so much planning that goes into that I think a lot of people don't understand between, hey, do we have enough rooms? Do we have restaurants? Do we have transportation you brought up, which I didn't even think about that. Can you talk about the little logistical ecosystem that you have to live in?
Well, and let me first say that we have a lot of partners that work with us, right? We couldn't do it alone. The Tampa Sports Authority, since we mentioned BTS and Taylor Swift, our Tampa Sports Authority led by Eric Hart and Raymond James Stadium, great facility. Steve Griggs and our team over at International Benchmark Arena with the Lightning, amazing partners. David Ingram with the city at the convention center. So we have all these assets that we have to sometimes bring together to come to the table. The process, we were chatting before the show again, and we're booking business out to 2038.
Which
right? For
is
the most
incredible,
part,
the involvement that has to be.
In some cases, you have a long runway.
Yeah.
In other cases, you may not, right?
Yeah.
And so there are differences between these groups, the RFPs. But, I always say we celebrate the announcement and we celebrate the execution. What we don't do is celebrate the work leading up to those two. And, we may get a lead. We may go out and find a lead of this great event, this great convention. We have to do our homework on who do we reach out to? What's the organization? What's the event planner? What's the process? Then we request a proposal. Like, hey, you're booked out to 2031. What about beyond that? Are you open to submitting a proposal? And then it's getting into the nitty-gritty of what's needed for that group to come and do that event. How many rooms do they need? Are they willing to be spread out over so many hotels? Then the logistics around that, if the event is at the convention center. There's a difference between a citywide convention and one that doesn't impact the city. Are there transportation issues? Is there a request for the mayor or one of our electeds to be there? Hey, some groups want to have a 5K run.
Yeah.
Some groups want food trucks. Some groups want a parade.
Think about that with
and we have to put all that together for them, because remember, these folks are not local.
And just planning a run is a whole
the street
blocking
closures,
streets,
maintenance, security.
Police, et cetera.
So all of those
Amazing.
details have to be worked out before, and then you actually have to execute so that there's success. And word of mouth, the group says, we were in Tampa. You got to go to Tampa. They have it together. They have their act together. Or, they come on a visit like that and they're like, I want to bring my family back because I was here for business and I didn't get to go to the zoo. I didn't get to catch a show at the Performing Arts Center or a ball game. So I got to come back. And in some cases, we have people who say, I want to move there.
Yeah.
So we also do economic development
win-win.
marketing around tourism. Like, oh my gosh, I was there for BTS. I was there for the English Premier NBC Fan Fest. These are great events. I was here for the outdoor hockey game. I want to move there. This place is too cool. This place is amazing.
I mean, the content that like the Ray J with, the goalie fight and stuff like that. I mean, that was massive.
Well, think about it. And, Tom Brady and his run here. All of those things build a resume, right? You talked about my resume. We're building a destination resume. Mm-hmm. We've hosted, 5 Super Bowls. How many women's Final Fours? How many Shriners Convention? How many military conventions? A Republican National Convention? International Indian Film Awards? I mean, all of these things are resume builders and lend credibility to the destination to go after more and more business. It never stops for us. We're 24/7. We're always out there grinding. It's not about a one-hit wonder and then we go away and you don't see us for a while. It's every single day. Every single day.
Amazing. You talked about partnerships and things like that you guys have, and I wanted to talk about and kind of have you explain to the audience. There's a difference. Networking is, I feel like, just shaking hands, kissing babies, work in a room kind of and stuff. And then there's what I feel like you do is actually building relationships. Yep. So can you talk about the differentiator between those two things and what it really means to build a relationship?
Yeah, relationships take time. Relationships take effort. Relationships take time, effort. Yes, networking, you go to an event, hi, exchange business cards, phone numbers, and there may be a phone call after. When we're in this business, we need to develop a relationship from the moment we get out there and bid on something with the folks that we may not know, and then build that relationship over that time for when it's time to execute. We've been married for a while, right? So the process, let's say 2038, right? We may be hosting an event here 2038. Our team now becomes so engaged with those folks that by 2038, it is a done deal, right? In all facets, it's a done deal. Same thing with partners. We have over 1,000 partners, right? We're a 501c6. We have 1,000 partners, and it's about engagement. Yeah. It's about engagement with every single one of those partners. It's not just cut us a check to be a partner, a small nominal fee, and we never see you again. No. We have networking events. We have referrals because let's say we've got a big convention coming to town. Again, these are not locals, and they need a florist. We've got a list of partners that are florists that we could send over and say, you need a florist, a local florist? We've vetted these folks. These are our friends. These are our partners. You need a magician. Oh, yeah, we got a list of magicians.
DJ,
you need dancers.
Yeah,
you need DJs. Yeah. You need caterers. You need attorneys. Our partnership model embraces all. So we have got a scope of services available through our partners, and that means economic impact for them as well, because these groups are not coming in and asking for it for free. They're asking for you to deliver a service that they're going to pay for. So it's this actual network of relationships. We in the office, and I'm an old guy, so I have all these old sayings, right? And I'm be a friend before you need a friend. And we're relational, we're not transactional. It's great if it turns into a transaction. We'd rather have the relationship than the transaction. And for the most part, relationships turn into transactions. I mean, even in personal lives, relationships may turn into transactions. So I think that's a great formula. I think it's worked well for us. It may not work well for everybody else, but it works well for us, and we've been very successful.
I think for me, it's very similar to what you're talking about. I use a lot. It's not an old guy thing because I use a lot of sayings as well, and different phrases and things. But I talk about it in my business as I want to be your attorney for life. So I want to help your brother, sister, wife, aunt, uncle, and things like that. And I either have two paths. I either do a great job for my clients and get referrals from that, or I spend $1 bazillion on marketing. I don't really want to spend $1 bazillion on marketing. And I'm sure, not to put words in your mouth, but it's very similar for you guys. Yeah. In the fact of if you do a great job, you get a great reputation, you develop these real relationships, a lot of the, in between as far as getting these, landing these clients, for lack of better terms, or these events rather, these productions, is a little easier.
It's about credibility.
Correct.
And it's about those relationships, and obviously you're doing it right. You're doing a great job for your clients. That's credibility.
Yeah.
Word spreads, great attorney, we got to go to them. But I also want to put in a plug for marketing. And, in our business, you have to invest money to make money. and I'm sure it's in any other, when you talk to
Any other
business
business,
people,
yeah, it's-
and marketing and promotions is critically important because number one, they have to know you're there to develop that relationship. They have to know
That's a
you're
good point,
there.
too.
And when people
So
talk,
that's why you see that, not to cut you off, but like the visit this city commercials and things like that. And
Absolutely.
you're in like, you're in New York, and you're like, visit Florida. Why is there a visit Florida or visit Tampa commercial?
Absolutely.
And it's like, yeah.
Because you have to be front of mind because it's
targeted
competitive.
ads, et cetera, yeah.
It's competitive, right? We said it from the beginning. We have to be aggressive. We have to be competitive because we don't have a monopoly on visitors. So you can choose to go anywhere you want to. Right? You don't have to come to the U.S. You don't have to come to Florida. You don't have to come to Tampa Bay. So marketing and promotions has to be part of the recipe. And I'm going to be honest with you. When people underestimate the power of marketing, say, well, tell that to Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Because I travel in this job all over the country, all over the world. There's a Coke Zero, Diet Coke, Coke everywhere. But how much money does Coca-Cola spend on marketing? You can say the same thing about McDonald's. A Big Mac, you can find a Big Mac
Hundreds of
just
millions,
about
if not billions,
all
yeah.
over the world, right?
Yeah.
Why do they still spend so much money on marketing? Because they want to be front of mind for the consumer so that their competition isn't. And so we have to invest in marketing. We have to invest in incentivizing because we're a great city, but there are lots of other great cities out there that are in the business of drawing visitors, conventions, concerts, events. So we have to know what we're doing, and we have to invest wisely. There's no other way around it.
I get it, and I couldn't agree more. You talked about earlier, you guys are 24/7. You guys are always working, hustling, making it happen. Obviously, you have an incredibly important role, and you could almost kind of refer to yourself as I'll refer to it as a local celebrity. So
thank you for that. I'm not so sure that's on point, but thank you.
I'll say it, yeah. How do you, take a little bit of time for yourself or be able to, just take a little me time, I guess?
It's hard because time and the calendar dictate your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I grapple with that a lot. Because, if you have to come into a podcast, you have to come into a podcast, right? If you have to go on a sales mission, you got to go on a sales mission. And it becomes very, very difficult. And for me, the balance is being here at home versus being on the road and doing business, because I want to be home, because I want to make sure my backyard is tended to, my front yard is tended to. So it's that balance between going to Washington, D.C., advocating on behalf of the industry, being there for a day and getting right back.
Yeah.
Going to Boston and getting right back. I mean, it's literally time management, making sure. So me time, I love supporting my wife and her interests now. So, she's an equestrian. She's a former dancer.
Oh,
she's
that's very
the
cool.
executive director of Dance Tampa Bay. So I like to support her in her pursuits. Believe it or not, and it's out of the bag, I think. My only hobby, believe it or not, is collecting rock group memorabilia.
That's an awesome hobby.
And I have the largest, and only one specific group. So I have I think one of the largest KISS collections in the world. Probably have over 100,000 pieces. And we're not talking about just little action figures and stickers. Pinball machines, casino machines, big stuff.
That's awesome.
That I've been collecting since I was a kid because, obviously they toured for 50 years and I'm 62. So
you were right in the
I was
hot
a
spot.
kid when they
Yeah.
were just coming out of the gate in the 70s. So to me, they were brilliant and brilliant marketers. I've studied much of the things that Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley have written about. And, it's interesting because even for younger generations, my debit card has a picture of me with KISS. And
I was going to say, I'm sure you met them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I go into a store and I'm giving it to a young person, they're like, KISS, I love KISS. So the fact is that they've transcended a lot of generations because when you hear the word KISS, you automatically know what they look like.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no guessing what those
100%.
Performers look like. So again, that's my single passion: getting out there, looking at auctions, seeing what I don't have that I might want, that I might be willing to pay for, because some of the stuff from the early years are very expensive. From the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
In a package. I don't know how anybody bought something in the 70s and kept it in its original packaging, but those things can fetch a big dollar. But that's it. Really supporting my wife in her pursuits now, and what I do with my collection. That's about it.
That's amazing.
I'm kind of a boring guy because I'm always working.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally always working.
I'm the same, very similar, and that's one of the questions I was. There's a couple questions that I ask in the back of my head for myself and things, and I'm very similar. I mean, in the fact of it's really my life, my personal life surrounds my wife and my kids now.
Yeah.
So
And it's about
which is
those
incredible.
seasons, right?
Yeah.
Where you're a new parent, you're a newlywed. I mean, there are seasons in people's lives. You mentioned celebrity. Maybe when I was 30, I wanted to be one.
Yeah.
The older I get, the less I want to be a celebrity, the more I want to make things happen, behind the curtain, behind the shadow, making sure that things continue and that I know that I've been a part of it and that I've helped to make something happen without a whole bunch of people knowing about it.
Fair enough. Tampa, we've talked a little bit about the now as far as Tampa, but obviously Tampa has an incredible history. You go walk down Ybor City, historic Hyde Park, all these different areas. There's obviously a ton of growth going on the other side of that with, gas works, buildings, different things going up, et cetera. How do you promote the history of Tampa? How do you promote the new and the old? How do you protect that, I guess?
And you have to. In my opinion, you really have to. And, when I joined the organization now almost 13 years ago, actually 13 years in a few days here, I joined at a very, very opportunistic time. We were going through a strategic plan. We were going through a rebrand. We were trying to figure out how we market this destination. Right? Because in some cases, people know New York City for whatever. People know Los Angeles for whatever, or Miami or Orlando or Vegas. We needed to figure out what people would know us for. And when we hired a third party to do focus groups and the whole thing, what we found was that we were uniquely different because of history, because of culture, because of the arts, because of the food, because of the immigrant experience that created the Tampa we have today. So when we came out of the box with our new brand, it was Unlock Tampa Bay, Treasure Awaits. Visit Tampa Bay, Treasure Awaits. And when you think about treasure, that may signify many different things to many different people. So we could actually talk about all the things we had to offer, whether it's sports, whether the arts, culture, culinary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, you pay homage to the things that have been here, like the Columbia restaurant and
of course,
the 1905 family of restaurants, right?
Yes.
But then you're also talking about Roca now, and you're talking about Boulan, and you're talking about the Pearl, and you're talking about, all of these concepts that now are making Tampa home. And by the way, now we have Michelin Guide recommended restaurants, 1-star restaurants. I think we have a James Beard nominee right now. So it's all of those things. See, for Tampa, it's got to be a mixture of all things. Mm-hmm. We're not one trick. We're not a one-trick destination. So you can layer leisure travelers, tourists with conventions, meetings, and events, with sports, with the arts, with cruise ships, with a great airport. So we have to talk about the multitude of things we have to entice people to pick us over somebody else. But yeah, the culture, the history, we didn't want to brand ourselves as another Florida destination. Yeah. We didn't want to talk about palm trees and the beaches and the sun. No. Lots of destinations in Florida have that.
Yeah.
So we wanted to stand out and be uniquely different. And our history, our people, the immigrant experience here really helps us to speak to how different we are.
I think, and I'm biased when I say this, but it was probably 2 or 3 months ago that I said to my wife, I go, what do we do this weekend? And she looks at me and she's like, and I go, there's like a lightning game. There's race, preseason or something like that. There's some festivals. It was like 6 major things going on at one time. And I'm like, it was almost like too much. And it's never too much, but it was crazy. I can only imagine how you feel.
Well, when people say there's nothing to do, I'm incredulous. I'm like, what? You must not know all the things there are to do because there are multiple. Just on the highway today, right? I'm driving here. The zoo now has Florida Waters open exhibit with underwater viewing of manatees, otters. So there's a big billboard that you can go. Then you drive a little bit. Busch Gardens now has lions and hyenas, a new habitat. We got Riverfest this weekend. We just came off of BTS. We just came off of English Premier Live Fan Fest. So there's a multitude of things happening right here at home every single weekend. And many of those things are free. which is amazing. I mean,
I
not
was
a
just
Busch
gonna say
Gardens,
that.
but a River Fest, right? That's free. Or any of the festivals we have down in Curtis Hickson Park. For the most part, there might be a small paid component, but for the most part,
rare.
They're generally free, right? So when you think about the Gasparilla season and all there is in the Gasparilla, which we really promote, when you talk about a music festival,
familiar
an
with
art festival,
Gasparilla. Yeah, you know,
there's quite a few
familiar.
things
Yeah.
going on, right? The children's parade, the night parade, the run, the music festival, the art festival, the film festival. There is a lot to do here. And hey, you know what? It's not too bad to visit our neighbors across the bay if you want to go to the beach, or our neighbors over east if you want to venture over. We've got some great towns in between us and Orlando, and of course Orlando all the way out to the coast. So geographically, we're in a great position as well to draw visitors here and say, you know what? There's a lot going on here, but even in the surrounding area, there's plenty to do.
You could easily, and I've done it plenty of times, come here and either as a single person or even with a family, and you could have a heck of a day for $100. I mean, and I'm talking about including eating. I mean, between the scooters and the bicycles and those things, the transportation system with the trolley, just being able to walk. I mean, you could, walk Bayshore, go down to Hyde Park, walk that, go to Ybor City, check that. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's a ton. I mean, you don't have to drop a bag in Tampa.
Absolutely. And the way, we've evolved and the way we're evolving, right? Obviously, we've always had West Shore. We got plug in for West Shore, a huge economic area for us. But we've had the West Shore and the downtown, and then we saw Midtown pop up between the West Shore and downtown. And then we have Water Street in between downtown and Ybor City. Now we have gasworks coming out of the ground, the Ybor Harbor, the other phases of Water Street. It's all this connectivity. Now we're doing on the west side of the Riverwalk. So there's the connection of all these amazing places. And you're right, very, very walkable. When I moved here 23 years ago, I don't think I would have thought of bringing any of my family or guests downtown. Now it's a must. You have to come downtown and see it. You have to be a part. You have to see the Riverwalk. You have to see all the activities behind the convention center, all the great restaurants, the attractions. We're very fortunate, and we have to make sure we protect, preserve, and grow in the right way.
Talk to me about, with that being said, how important it is for local businesses of all sizes to invest in the community or one way or another.
It's critically important. And it's critically important for it to be a safe, for it to be a clean, for it to be an efficient destination. Because, again, it's this competitive mode we're in. So I've always said, look, you could be the greatest place on earth, and if nobody knows, nobody's coming. And then if you are the greatest place on earth and people come and it's not the greatest place on earth, then you have problems as well.
Yeah.
So it's about maintaining the Tampa. I like to say it's the Tampa spirit. It's the Tampa personality. Don't try to be like anybody else. Be you, be the greatest you can be. And I think that's what we're seeing, with these development projects that are coming out of the ground. They're fantastic, and some are more than out of the ground right now. They're into other phases. And I think that's so important because I'll tell you this, when we're out there bidding and somebody was here 10 years ago, they want to know what's happened. If I come back, we have sometimes from a year to year, people say, wow, that wasn't there last time I was here.
Yeah.
So it's this, again, this growth that has to be very positive and the right kind of growth so that we can, continue to beat the competition. Because we've seen the mistakes of other cities. We've seen the mistakes of other destinations, and we don't want to be there. So we have to be very, very smart, and that's why I said it's not an accident, right? We have to be very calculating. We have to be smart. We have to be clever. And that's the way you win. So again, you're right. Hold on to the old, protect the old, preserve the old, and make sure that the new really supports the old. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing.
One of the things I want to talk about is, with that being said, it is so important from my, purview that Tampa comes together, celebrates what we have, gives back, and tries to create the best community that we can, because the impact that you guys, you showed me in the beginning, $9.5 billion in economic impact, which is massive. Over 60,000 jobs created because of the Visit Tampa Bay and the tourism that comes in. All of the amazing things. It's like I kind of said at the beginning, where either somebody has to pay for all the infrastructure. Somebody has to pay for, the roads to be fixed. Somebody has to, that's a hot button issue for some people. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, but, somebody has to pay for the fire department, the police department, all of these different infrastructure things. If we don't come together, we don't bring in visitors, and we don't have those tourism taxes, and we don't have that economic impact, then it's up to us as community members to pay for that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. We like to say that we create $691 million a year in additional taxes. That isn't the tourism tax that's paid when you stay in a hotel.
That's great.
So that means no income tax for all of us. That's why when people get annoyed with tourism or over tourism, say, look at your paycheck, every other week, your monthly, whatever, every week, and look
Somebody
for an
gotta
income
pay
tax.
for all this.
And look for the income tax, right?
Yeah.
The only reason even Florida can have a conversation right now of eliminating property taxes is because of the tourism industry and the economic impact that it makes. When you think about, and we talk about it here, when a visitor comes to town, a conventioneer, somebody for whatever reason, they don't hide in their hotel room.
No.
They got to eat. They got to go out. They must take transportation. So they're impacting all these other industries by this one visit. And we have a great video called Measure the Treasure that talks about the economic impact of a visitor, of a convention, of a group to Tampa, and so many tentacles. And it's incumbent on all of us to keep these businesses in operation, because these are our neighbors, these are our friends that have local businesses, and those local businesses pay property taxes that then go to fund the police, that go to fund Parks and Rec, that go and fund transportation. So when you think about transportation improvements, when you think about, all the ripple effects of tourism and how it impacts all of these other things, forever and a day, we weren't mindful of how much a Marriott Water Street pays in property taxes to the city and county. That's money that's going right into the local coffers to support our quality of life, and of course all the jobs, the 61,000 plus jobs in the industry. Because when you think about the industry, it's massive. If you throw in there airport, port, attractions, museums, culinary, restaurants, transportation, retail, it's massive. It is massive. Massive industry.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, we all have to do our part, and part of that, which I wanted to commend you guys on, is it's very easy to find out about Tampa and visit Tampa Bay, and because of the content that you guys put out. Tell me about the thought process that goes in on that, and to kind of preface my question, I always try to encourage people to put out content, and you guys do, with that being said, an incredible job of doing these kind of real productions. Yeah. But talk about and encourage the audience how important it is to just pick up the iPhone and start talking about what you do or your business or celebrating your community.
Word of mouth is amazing, and now with social media and influencers, and it's what we do has to be very creative, out of the box thinking. I'm blessed to have an amazing team of very creative, sales-driven people that know the impact that they make to this community. So from that end, but yeah, I mean, we use a lot of data. You talk about being a data geek. We love data, right? And I'll give you a couple of examples, because I think, examples speak louder than just, a bunch of,
Please, yeah.
A bunch of numbers. So we did a study recently that looked at people's perceptions about Tampa before and after a visit. So we surveyed people who'd never been here, and then surveyed a bunch of people who had been here. And the difference between those perceptions was amazing. If you'd never been here, you didn't think we were adventurous, you didn't think we were laid back, you didn't think we had culture. And after you came here, those key variables, those performance indicators, were off the charts. So our new campaign is Go and You'll Know.
Yeah,
go to Tampa Bay and you'll know. And it's because it's a play on, hey, you don't really know us if you've never been here. And once you know us, you're going to have a very different feeling about us. So that's a great campaign. We know that people love their dogs. I love my dogs, right? So we know people love their dogs. And, we're sitting around the table one day and I said, it'd be great if we started encouraging dog lovers to visit the destination.
Yeah.
So we came up, our PR marketing team, came up with this great campaign, the Doggone Days of Summer, where we actually had dog influencers. People follow dog influencers.
So they do. I know they do.
And, you know, they're out on the Riverwalk. They're at a restaurant. They're out at the beach. I mean, and all of a sudden, we're talking to pet food companies to do our marketing with, Amazon to partner with us because people buy pet food on Amazon. So again, it's this creativity that you get out
incredible.
there, and then you're copied, right? And then we have to pivot, right? Because a lot of people are
great. Miami's doing cats now. Like we gotta change it up. Orlando had this weird
our jingle, our colors, you know, our catchphrases, you know, unlock.
Lakeland's got an alligator. Like we're done. Move on from the animals.
So again, it's having a team that's on top of those kinds of things to say, okay, we were the first to do this, and now there are 20 people doing this. It's time to do something new that another 20 people will probably copy.
Yeah.
And so, again, blessed and very fortunate to have an incredible team of professionals. I get to talk about the great work they do, but they're actually out there doing the work. And so
that's fantastic.
The team is fabulous. And I have to say, you know, I think we take our hotel industry for granted. The fact that, you know, they voluntarily at first came up with the tourist development tax, which is a fee that they pass on to their clients that they could keep as bottom line, right? If you charge an extra 6% and it goes to government for specific uses, that could be 6% that goes to your bottom line. Mm-hmm. So the fact that the hotel industry gives back money to its community to encourage more visitation, to increase the tourism economy, is something that nobody else is doing. I mean, when you really think about it, it's the only industry that really sends a check to government every month. And I think that's very, very important. And again, philanthropic, supportive of their communities. I think the hotel industry sometimes is taken for granted, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that they get the proper accolades they deserve.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, if they don't have a place to stay, they're not going to come. They can only come for a day. That's just kind of, you got to have a place to sleep.
And if the experience is terrible, they're not coming back. So again, you know, a lot of what we do depends on that first arrival, right? Whether it's through the airport or some other way that they get.
Gosh,
here.
I didn't even think about that. I mean, when you're probably, not to cut you off, but you and your team are probably thinking about like, let's put myself in the shoes. Like, you know, I'm thinking about like, oh, you know, are they, you know, did they have a good time at the, you know, the Benchmark Arena, or did they have a good time at their event? You're going so much further back, and it's like, okay, were they able to pick up their bags easy at the airport? Like, was it clean? Was it, and you know,
And then 61,000 plus people in the industry.
Were they able to get to it?
And did they have one negative interaction? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
one negative interaction could blow it.
And
so we depend on all of our partners to really deliver what we're out there selling and what we're out there marketing. And I think, and I know they are, because the numbers wouldn't be what they are. I mean,
of course.
We're the envy of a lot of destinations because of our numbers. And when we're talking about occupancy, and we're talking about attendance, and we're talking about the rates of the hotel and the economic impact we're having, there are a lot of people out there wanting to replicate our recipe.
I would imagine. Tell me about, with that being said, obviously, you know, incredible partners, incredible people that you know you work with. From a partner perspective, how do you have a difficult conversation and talk about the mindset there when maybe people that I wouldn't say not directly your team or anything like that, maybe a partner didn't deliver the experience that needs to be delivered. I mean, obviously you can't tell somebody how to run their business, but how does difficult conversations go?
And we don't, right? But I think it's about communication. It's about relationships, right? We go back to relationship. If I have a good relationship
you're all
with
on
you,
the same page.
I can say,
you're all
hey,
doing the
Kevin,
same thing,
you know, I heard this. Look, I'm trying to be helpful here. I don't think that's the way you want to be thought about, right? So I'm just sharing that with you, but remember, a lot of us depend on your behavior. And so have we had to have some of those conversations? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We're not perfect, right? There's only one thing that's perfect, and it's not here. But we aim to get as close to perfection as we can, knowing that it's probably improbable to be perfect. But yeah, we do have those conversations. We have to, because you want to get better, and you want to make sure that those experiences aren't repeated. And they're usually, you know, very, very good conversations, because it's about being helpful. It's about us moving together forward. It isn't ever critical or nasty. It's about being supportive.
how does it, and I don't want to come across as like it's an envious thing or anything, but do you ever kind of, I guess, does it ever strike you when you're having these high level conversations with some of these incredible business people, politicians, things like that? I mean, I'm sure you have numerous conversations with the mayor and numerous conversations of, or maybe not, but this developer or this renter out here.
Absolutely, all of the above. All of the above.
Is that just like amazing for you to like, this is my job? Like I just get to be around these like it's always incredible for me, obviously why I have the podcast to be able to dive into somebody's psyche. And I saw you were a psychology major as well.
Yeah, I was at the University of Miami.
Yeah. Is that just incredible for you to be like, wow, I get to work with these minds?
Yeah, every once in a while it strikes you.
Yeah.
Like, and in fact, I shared it with my wife. I said, this week I've talked to the mayor, several commissioners, several council members, several business owners. I mean, the opportunity to bid and present before all of the NFL owners for a Super Bowl. When you have
billionaires,
and all of them together in a room.
Yeah.
When you've had the modest and meek beginnings that I had, right? It almost seems like a fantasy that's come to reality. But then, I'm very spiritual, right? And I have to speak about that. I know that God had a path for me, and I'm trying to live the right way on that path. But yeah, sometimes it could be mind-boggling. You're sitting next to, we were in D.C. Not too long ago because we're involved not just in local issues affecting travel. We're involved in state issues affecting travel and national issues affecting travel. So when you're sitting in the room with a senator or you're sitting in a room with a House representative, either at the state level or at the national level, or you're in the room with the president. I've been in the room with U.S. presidents in the past, and I've actually shaken the hands of 3. You start to, wow, I came from this immigrant family, both parents from Cuba, uneducated, blue-collar workers, trying to learn a language. I became the surrogate businessman because I learned the language. I became the surrogate doctor. I became the surrogate real estate agent. I became everything because I was in the midst, at 10 years of age, at 13 years of age, in these adult transactions because my parents didn't understand the language. So, you come from living in an attic in Paterson, New Jersey, a tough town, a tough blue-collar town, to what I do today. And, I just have to thank God every day that I've been so blessed. And I try to live up to that. And it's hard. I mean, because, like I said, perfection is hard to get.
100% it is. 100%. Tell us a story or share something. I mean, I'm sure you have numerous stories. Like is there anything when I ask that question that just, about Tampa Bay or an experience you've had or something like that you can share with us?
Again, back to the early days, right? When I first got here, Cuban family, obviously Latino, know the Latino surnames and the whole thing. I was blown away by how assimilated the Latino community was in Tampa and Hillsborough County because they've been here for so many generations. Mm-hmm. So, if I saw somebody with a last name Garcia or Rodriguez or Gonzalez, I immediately went to Spanish first. Yeah. And they'd look at me like I had 3 eyeballs. Like, hey, I've been in America for 4 generations. Yeah. Garcia is our surname, but I don't speak Spanish, right? And so I think that was, but everyone was just always so kind. It's interesting because I can't really think of a negative thing in my 20 some odd years living in Tampa that I could recall as a negative situation. We've had challenges, and being a mayor's chief of staff is a tough job. And I came here to be the mayor's neighborhood services administrator because I was recruited out of the mayor's office in Miami to come and work in Pam Iorio's administration. And then I transitioned into Bob Buckhorn's administration. Before that, I had worked for the school system. So, I'd gotten my feet wet. But, when you pick up your family and you move somewhere where you know no one, mm-hmm. because I knew no one here, and you start almost brand new after being somewhere for 20 some odd years, it can be a challenge. And I think that challenge was really minimized for me because of what Tampa is in Hillsborough County. So I'm very proud of our home. I am very proud of this destination. I often tell people we have really, really intelligent folks here running things, and it shows. It really shows. I mean, when you get to visit other major cities in the country, like I do, and maybe not such major cities or all over the world, you want to get back home. It's like, wow, I'm not used to this because home isn't like this, and it's usually for a bad reason, not a good reason, right?
I get what you're saying.
So again, we all need to be very, very grateful that we live in a place like this. I think, like I said, if you don't go anywhere and you don't see other things, you can be critical of the place you live in. But I would tell you, compared to other places, the majority of other places, we should be very, very grateful. Profoundly grateful.
We try to travel, once a quarter, nothing crazy or anything like that. Our family's very busy, my wife as well, and with 2 small kids, so we're selective, but we try to make that goal, get away for a long weekend and things like that. And we have conversations often like, hey, do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? Do you want to go here? And it's like, well, Tampa has that. Well, Tampa has that. Well, Tampa, it's very hard to go and I guess spend the money and the time in another city, because a lot of this, probably 90% of the things most places have to offer are in Tampa.
Well, that's what I was saying. We have all the attributes of a major city, of a major destination, but not with the hassles of some of those places.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are great American cities. There are great cities all over the world, but they do come with their issues.
Yeah.
And we know our issues. We work through our issues. And again, I'll say it a million times. It is an amazing place. It is an amazing place. So for me, marketing and selling, the destination is so easy for me because I'm so genuinely in love with the place that, I've had my colleagues where we've hosted colleague events here.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you're always like, they're measuring me up and down, sideways, and they're looking at what I'm saying and how am I. And I've had a number of my colleagues come up and say afterward, your energy about this place is so sincere that on occasion some of us have to fake it. You just are always on a stage, and you can see the love and admiration you have for Tampa, Hillsborough County, Plant City, Temple Terrace, all of our cities that are within the county. And I say, yeah, because it's real. I can't fake it, right? It's hard to be in this position if you're faking it, and you're still in love with someplace you lived, right? It'd be incredibly difficult. And like I said, this has been my place, and it goes back to how I've been welcomed, how I've been encouraged to contribute. In other places that doesn't happen.
I will say, I can tell your passion. I mean, obviously, I do this for a living, and not podcasting. I have a real job, but obviously, I get to talk to a lot of different people, and you're the real deal. And I appreciate you taking the time. And as we're kind of wrapping up, I always ask this question at the end of every podcast: when the music stops, maybe a Kiss album, and you're at the end of your story, what do you want to be remembered for?
And I've given that a lot of thought, right? Because the closer you get to the song or the album finishing, now we're into vinyls again, which is interesting, right? When the needle gets to that last part of the vinyl, what do you want people to remember? And I think now more than ever, I think you want to be remembered as a good human being. There's so much stuff out there right now. Being a good human being, being somebody who was dedicated, who was loyal, who was consistent. And above all, I've been lots of things in my life, right? I've been a school teacher. I've been a middle school principal. I've been a high school principal. I've been the Parks and Rec director for the city of Miami. I've been neighborhood services administrator, chief of staff, the president and CEO of Visit Tampa Bay. I want people to remember me as a good leader. He was able to be a good leader across all those things. How do you take a high school principal and make him the director of Parks and Rec for the city of Miami? How does that person then transition to another city to be the neighborhood services administrator? I want to be thought of as somebody who contributed and made a difference at all those things, and he was consistently a great human being and a good leader.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love Tampa, and obviously, as you being a primary steward, the city is in incredible hands.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
As always, we're going to ask you guys to like and subscribe. I'm wrapping this up, and I'm like, this was a banger, dude. I mean, I'm just gonna I'm like trying to be serious at the end, but I'm like, we
can have fun. We can have tourism's about fun, right?
This is a banger episode, but no, I can't thank you enough. Thank you. Absolutely amazing. It is obviously we end every podcast. We will have the Visit Tampa Bay contact info, Instagram, etc. And it is no accident that you are as successful as you are. So I appreciate you, my man.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Thank you
absolutely.
for having us on.
We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you. Thank you.